Discover the incredible 5-year journey of a hidden love that will change your life forever. Jake was a mechanic from a small town just outside Chicago, bearing responsibilities that felt heavier than the grease-stained overalls he wore. Every day he worked tirelessly in the garage to keep the family business rolling while grappling with the care of his aging father, a Vietnam veteran haunted by memories that crashed like waves against the shores of his mind. Life was hard, but there was a flickering light in Jake's world. Mia. She was the town librarian, a gentle spirit whose laughter wrapped around Jake like a favorite old sweater. Even from a distance he could watch her charm the patrons with her warmth, and for those fleeting moments he forgot the chaos swirling around him. Their love, though deep, stayed hidden within the whispers of the wind, a secret that burned brightly in the shadows. Jake held on to her as tightly as a wrench in his hand, believing their connection offered a path to happiness, a glimmer of hope amidst the burdens he carried. But secrets come with a price. Layoffs threatened the shop's livelihood, and bills piled up like autumn leaves. Jake's chest tightened with each sunset, his father's health declining faster than he could prepare for. He fought desperately to keep their heads above water, but in the darkness of the garage doubts gnawed at him. And then, just as the weight of his heart felt like too much to carry, Mia's family faced turmoil too. Her father's construction business crumbled unexpectedly, pitting duty against love. Jake watched helplessly as she wrestled with her priorities, her dreams tangled up in family obligations. What if she left him? Before that question had time to echo in the empty corners of his heart, a storm crashed into town. Rain poured forth like a bucket of despair, the wind howling like a banshee. The floodwaters rose, swirling around their lives, sweeping everything along with it. In those chaotic hours the townspeople banded together, revealing both the beauty of their unity and the shadows of their biases. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake felt a fire spark in his belly as he joined the efforts. He poured out his spirit, not merely to fix his town but to reclaim hope. But as tensions boiled over in a packed town meeting, filled with anger and old prejudices, Jake's heart hammered like a pounding engine. Almost everyone turned their eyes towards him, waiting. Would he stand up for Mia for love? Or would he hold back, tethered to the chains of his family's reputation? The room crackled, the storm still raging outside, inside and in their hearts. Faces twisted in expectation, but Jake felt the weight lifting. It was time to decide. Did his love for Mia outweigh the fear of judgment? The echoes of the past fought in the open air, and Jake realized he was at the helm of change both for himself and the town. He drew a deep breath, preparing for the moment that would alter everything. The path ahead was still uncertain, but one thing was clear. He was ready to fight for love. Jake stepped forward, heart racing, mind buzzing with possibilities. Silence spread across the room like an unwelcome fog, thick with anticipation. He could hear the whispers in the back, the little digs about his father's past, the judgments just waiting to be spoken. But here he was, the weight of the community's gaze pressing on him, and for the first time in a long while, he felt like more than just a mechanic or a son burdened with care. Mia deserves better, he finally said, his voice steady, surprising even himself. We all do. This isn't just about business. It's about our families, our futures. The words tumbled out of him, feeling right and necessary. A murmur spread through the crowd, some nodding, while others shifted uncomfortably. Many would never want to change their narrow views, but he had made the choice to step into the light. With his heart in his throat, he pressed on. We need to unite for each other, not tear each other down. Old grudges don't solve problems. Love and compassion do. We can rebuild the town together. The storm still raged outside, but inside, he could feel tension crackling with new energy. How could anyone truly deny the power of community? It had been here when he grew up, lifting him up when life seemed too hard, and it could be revived again. He caught Mia's eye across the room, and something clicked deep inside him. A promise was there, silent but profound. He would no longer hide behind his fears. I know we've all made mistakes, Jake continued, his voice rising above the quiet rumble. But at the end of the day we have to choose where we stand. If we keep fighting, we'll lose everything that makes us who we are. On the edges of that crowd, familiar faces appeared. His father nodded subtly, a flicker of approval in his eyes. Mia's expression transformed into one of hope mixed with pride. And in that heated moment, standing in front of those who had always viewed him through a narrow lens, Jake felt a flicker of something he hadn't recognized in a long time. Courage. As voices began to rise in agreement, a shift occurred. The community started discussing ways to collaborate, pooling resources, supporting each other instead of competing. It felt like a spark igniting a dry field. They shared ideas, laughter, and hope, a flicker that could become a flame. Just then, a loud crash echoed from outside. A tree, uprooted by the relentless storm, had smashed into the town square. Gasps filled the room as people rushed to the windows and Jake's heart sank. This wasn't just a setback, it was a call to action. I know we've just started to mend things here, he said, turning to meet Mia's gaze and reinforcing his earlier sentiment. But we can't let a storm break what we've begun to build. The townsfolk sprang into motion, their anger giving way to a sense of urgency. There were voices of agreement, calls of let us go. As everyone rushed outside, together they formed a makeshift rescue team, each person's contribution making a difference. As they worked side by side, Jake felt bonds forming, old tensions easing, laughter mingling with the sound of rain. But in the midst of the chaos, an unanswered question loomed in Jake's heart. Could the strength of their newfound unity withstand the storms ahead? Was this spark of hope fragile, or could it grow into something unbreakable? As the rain pounded harder, Jake realized that change was never easy, but worth every ounce of effort. He glanced at Mia, who was right beside him, her gaze determined. This was only the beginning. The fight for love, both personal and communal, had just ignited, and he was ready. But before he had the chance to catch his breath, a familiar face appeared in the crowd, one he thought he'd never see again. Jake blinked, momentarily frozen as recognition swept through him like a shockwave. His breath hitched in his throat. There, standing at the edge of the crowd, was Chris, his childhood friend, the one who left town 5 years ago. The one who had opened a world of possibilities for Jake before disappearing without a word. Is that really you? Jake called out, pushing past the onlookers who seemed paralyzed by the ferocious storm and Chris's sudden return. With a hesitant smile, Chris brushed a lock of wet hair from his forehead and stepped forward, shoulders squared against the wind. Yeah, it's me, he said, voice barely audible over the rain. The moment felt surreal. After all this time, how could he be here now? The chatter around them dialed down, curious eyes darting between the two men. I didn't expect anyone to come back, Jake admitted, trying to mask the flood of emotions swirling inside him. Hope and confusion battled for dominance. Last I heard, you were in the city building your dream. Yeah, well, Chris ran a hand through his hair again, glancing around at the bustling crowd. Life happened. But honestly, I heard about the storm, the damage, I had to come home. He stepped closer, lowering his voice as the rain intensified. I saw what you said in there. You've changed, Jake. It's good to see you standing up for this town. Jake's heart swelled at the compliment, but an unspoken tension lingered. Thanks. We're trying to come together. It's hard though. Chris nodded knowingly, eyes scanning the gathering crowd. I can help, he said, the sincerity in his tone almost easing the regret Jake felt for their lost connection. What do you need? Before Jake could respond, Mia approached, wiping rain from her cheeks like it was nothing more than a nuisance. Chris. Wow. You're back. She beamed, the warmth in her eyes briefly brightening the gloomy atmosphere. Hey Mia, Chris replied, a ghost of a smile crossing his lips. It's been a while. The history between them was palpable. Jake noticed the way Chris's eyes flickered toward Mia. And suddenly his heart sank, an unwelcome jealousy creeping in. They had always held a connection, one that Jake understood but had never fully grasped. Can you help us with the damage out there? Mia asked, guiding Chris's attention back to the crisis at hand. We need all the hands we can get. Absolutely, Chris replied with a confidence that set Jake's heart racing. Despite the muck and despair around them, they needed the man with the creative solutions. the one who had always been the glue that held friendships together. As they rushed to the town square, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this reunion was too charged, too precarious. Would their friendship mend after all this time, or would it splinter under pressure? The townsfolk were already assessing the damage and planning their next steps, yet Jake felt an overwhelming urge to face Chris about the past, about the silent whispers that had echoed between their families, about the love they had nearly explored so long ago. "Hey Chris," he finally called out, halting their pace as they moved through the debris. "Does it feel different to be back?" Chris turned slowly, his face serious, and for a brief moment, the storm seemed to quiet around them, as if the world was holding its breath. "A little," he admitted. Then he paused, something flickering in his eyes as he added with a hint of hesitation, "But sometimes coming back means facing unfinished business." Feeling the weight of those words, Jake nodded, knowing that the real work was yet to come, not just in repairing the town, but in repairing themselves. And deep down, Jake wondered if this sudden turn of fate meant the return of something he had long buried, a spark that could reignite and change everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and forgiveness. As they joined the others in the storm-ravaged square, Jake's heart pounded with a mix of hope and uncertainty. He knew a question floated like the clouds above them: could the bond he once had with Chris be salvaged, or had time and distance created an unbridgeable divide? With every minute that passed, the rain poured down heavier, and Jake felt that fate had more in store for him. What would Chris reveal about the time he'd spent away? What secrets had he buried? And would they redefine everything for Jake, Mia, and the entire town? The rain thundered around them as they trudged through the debris. Each step felt heavier than the last, weighed down by a mix of past grievances and unspoken words. Jake caught glimpses of the townspeople, faces familiar yet changed, eyes clouded with worry but glimmers of determination shining through. "Let us start over there," Chris suggested, pointing at a row of battered houses. His voice cut through the rain like a beacon, filled with purpose. But Jake couldn't shake the twist of anxiety in his gut. They made their way through the crowd, Mia marching ahead, sharing plans with the neighbors. Every now and then she would throw a smile back at Chris, the kind that lit up the gloomy day. In those moments Jake's heart clenched. He could see the comfortable camaraderie between them, the history that stretched back even before Chris left. It burned deep, an uncomfortable reminder of his own insecurities. "Why did you leave?" Jake finally blurted out, the words pouring out before he could stop them. Chris stopped in his tracks, turning to face him. The fleeting lightness in the air vanished, replaced by thick, tangible tension. "It was complicated," Chris began, his voice trailing off into the storm. The pitter-patter of raindrops seemed to echo their silence as the crowd moved past them, voices blending into the background noise. "Complicated how?" Jake prodded. He didn't even realize he had stepped closer, drawn in by the gravity of Chris's presence. Chris sighed, shifting nervously as he rubbed the back of his neck. "You know how it is with families, Jake. My dad wanted me to make a name for myself, to build a future. I thought running away would help." His voice softened, vulnerability creeping in. "But I left more than just the town. I left people I cared about. Is that why you're here now?" Jake felt the air grow heavier with each word, the vulnerability hanging between them like a delicate thread. "To fix everything? It's about making things right," Chris said, his gaze steady. "I can't change the past, but seeing what's happened to the town, it hit me hard. I wanted to be here for you. For everyone." There was a sincerity in his eyes that gave Jake hope, but it was tangled in old wounds. "And Mia?" Jake couldn't help but voice the question that hung uncomfortably between them. "What does she mean to you?" "She's always been special," Chris admitted, biting his lip. "But I don't want to come between you two. I just want to help. What's important now is this town. Rebuilding what we've lost." His intent was clear, yet something unspoken lingered in the space between them. Just then, a sharp cry rang out from the crowd. Jake's heart raced as he turned to see two children struggling to lift a heavy piece of debris, panic flashing across their faces. Without thinking, he dashed over to help, adrenaline seizing him as he shouted for Chris and Mia to follow. The three converged at the scene, the urgency of the moment pushing aside their previous conversation. Together they lifted the debris, allowing the children to scramble free. Relief washed over the siblings as they threw their arms around Jake, gratitude shining in their eyes. Thanks, mister. One of the kids exclaimed, and Jake felt a warmth swell in his chest. He glanced back at Chris, who was beaming. See, Chris said, clapping Jake on the shoulder. This is what it's about. But Jake couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty. Yes, helping the kids felt good, but what about their conversation? What about the layers still left unspoken between them? As the rain lightened up, he caught sight of Mia and Chris working side by side, laughter dancing between them. For a heartbeat, the sound felt like home, a sound he desperately wanted to cling to. But he also realized it felt like a reminder of everything he feared losing. The undercurrent of unaddressed feelings lingered as the sun fought to break through the clouds. Deep down, Jake knew that the storm was far from over, both in the sky and within their hearts. What secrets would emerge if they continued to peel back the layers? And as the light slowly began to shine, would those revelations bring them closer or tear them apart for good? The air crackled with tension as Jake tried to shake off the warm feeling from the kids' gratitude. He could still see Mia and Chris laughing in the distance, their voices melding with the dim sounds of the town beginning to restore itself. It felt surreal, the echoes of laughter juxtaposed against the wreckage. He wiped the rain off his forehead, inhaling deeply. But with every breath came a heavier weight. Jake looked down the road, where the remnants of home stood battered but not completely broken. It was a tangible metaphor for his own life, he thought. He was both resilient and fractured. Mia. Chris. His voice called out, steadying himself. They turned, eyebrows raised, their laughter fading into questioning smiles. He stepped towards them, the words tumbling through his mind like the rain that had just let up. What's next? We need a plan for the rest of the day. Mia nodded, a spark of excitement lighting up her features. There's still so much to do. I was thinking we could help organize a community gathering later. Get everyone together, talk about what needs fixing. A community gathering? Jake echoed, a sense of purpose igniting within him. Yeah, that sounds great. We can start by cleaning up this street and checking on neighbors. Maybe organize a supplies drive? Chris chimed in, perfect. I can spread the word to some folks I know. If we can get everyone involved, it'll lift their spirits. But as they discussed plans, Jake couldn't shake the sense of juxtaposition brewing between them. He felt the subtle shift in Chris's tone when he spoke about Mia, the way his eyes glimmered with admiration. So much was left unsaid. Let us get to it then. Mia's enthusiasm pulled Jake back from his spiraling thoughts. He watched as she clapped her hands together, rallying her energy for the work ahead. Chris fell into step beside her, and for a moment, Jake felt like an outsider in their world, merely a shadow flickering behind their light. They began their work, shifting debris and clearing out broken branches. Every now and then, Mia would drop a laugh, and Jake desperately sought to join it, though the hollow felt immense. As they worked, Jake caught Mia's eye, and she momentarily dropped her tools. Hey, everything okay? He nodded, managing a half-smile. Just thinking. It's a lot to take in, you know? The damage, the memories. Mia stepped closer. We can handle this, Jake. Together. You'll see, we're going to get through this. Her voice was soothing, yet her gaze shifted toward Chris just behind Jake. The shift was palpable, a tear in their small circle. He turned, finding Chris wiping his brow, looking at them both. There was something unspoken, a fear of getting too close, of opening up wounds that hadn't fully healed. Let us take a break, Chris suggested. We can grab some water. Clear our heads. They sat on a fallen log, the sun shyly peeking from behind the clouds, sending streaks of warmth. But Jake felt cold inside, his thoughts a whirlwind. I can't help but feel like the past is just lurking around each corner. He confessed, his voice thick. Can we really rebuild, Chris? Can we fix what's gone? Mia placed a hand on Jake's knee, her touch grounding. We have to try. That's what matters. And we have each other, right? Jake nodded, but his heart was heavy. He looked at Chris, whose expression mirrored his uncertainty. Maybe the past doesn't need fixing, Chris said quietly. Maybe we just need to learn from it. Jake swallowed hard, feeling the enormity of those words. What if the past wasn't just a burden but a guiding light? Just then a loud crack echoed nearby, sending a jolt through the trio. What was that? Mia exclaimed, turning her head toward the sound. A tree or something, Chris replied, scanning the area. But as Jake looked deeper into the woods beyond the houses, he felt the prickle of something lost and hidden, something calling him. What had they missed? What other secrets and surprises still lay buried in the wreckage? As the trees whispered, Jake couldn't silence the nagging dread that they weren't the only ones frightened by what lay ahead. The stakes were rising, and it was clear they needed to confront not only the task of rebuilding the town, but also the shadows that lurked in their hearts. Would they have the courage to face what lay hidden beneath the surface? Jake leaned in closer, squinting at the thick line of trees that loomed ahead, their branches twisting and intertwining like fingers reaching for the sky. The crack, though startling, stirred a relentless curiosity inside him. "Let us check it out," he said, suddenly surprising himself. Mia exchanged a concerned glance with Chris but ultimately nodded. "All right, but we stick together. No wandering off." With cautious steps, they moved toward the dense stand of timber. The rich smell of damp earth filled the air, mingling with the faint scent of something floral. Jake felt a tug at his heart, a reminder that within decay, life still persisted. As they entered the darker area of the woods, the chattering of birds grew muted. Shadows played tricks on their eyes, making everything seem distorted, unfamiliar. Jake felt the weight of their goal, the gathering, the rebuilding pooling around them. It was easy to forget it all when you're surrounded by the echoes of the past. "Over here," Chris called, waving them closer. He was crouched beside a small mound of earth, the remnants of something half-buried. Jake rushed over, his heart racing. Was it more debris or perhaps a forgotten fragment of their town's history? They knelt beside it, brushing away leaves and dirt. And just beneath the surface, they uncovered a rusted tin box. Its edges were frayed, but there was something almost regal about it, hinting at secrets waiting to be unveiled. Jake's hands trembled slightly as he reached to open it. He exchanged glances with Mia and Chris, a shared moment of anticipation hanging in the air like a taut string. "What do you think's inside?" Mia asked, her voice laced with excitement. "I don't know, but let us find out," Jake replied, his voice barely above a whisper as he pried the lid open. A rusty screech echoed around them. The box revealed a jumble of letters tied neatly with faded string. They were worn, the paper crinkled with age, but unmistakable in their importance. Jake pulled one out, brushing off the dirt, and began to open it carefully. Each letter was stamped with a date decades old. "These there from the war," he murmured, glancing up to meet the curious eyes of his friends. "They're love letters." As he unfolded one, the poignant words flowed over him like a gentle tide. A story of longing, of hope against despair. The writer poured their heart on the paper, each stroke filled with raw emotion. This must have been from someone in this town, he marveled, feeling the weight of history pressing around them. Mia, sensing the depth of the moment, turned to Chris. "Maybe these stories can inspire us, help us see what truly matters." Jake's mind raced. With their community gathering approaching, this could weave together not just their own scars but the shared history of everyone in their town. These letters could connect generations, spark conversations that mattered. But as Jake read another letter, a sense of unease gripped him. The last words had a tone of finality, hinting at loss and heartbreak. He looked back into the woods, feeling the shadows shifting around him, whispering reminders of what they were really up against, not just physical damage, but the emotional scars that could still haunt them. How do we bring this to light? He wondered aloud. How do we share their stories? And in that moment, as the sun broke through the clouds, illuminating their find, a deep feeling settled in Jake's chest. It wasn't just about rebuilding structures, it was about mending hearts, old wounds bound tightly with memories, and a promise that love could still persevere. The weight of the letters pressed on his mind. They would need more than just themselves to pull this off. They needed the stories of those who had come before, tangible remnants of love forged through hard times. Just as hope began to swell within him, a distant rumble echoed through the trees, startling all three of them. Shadows danced and flickered as a fierce wind kicked up suddenly. Jake braced himself, feeling a rush of foreboding. What was that? Chris yelled over the wind. Don't know, but we better head back. Jake shot back, clutching the letters tightly. But as they turned, a chilling realization began to sink in. Whatever history had been hidden here, it felt far from over. What more lay beneath the surface waiting to be unearthed? The wind howled louder, tugging at their clothes and sending leaves swirling around them like little ghosts. Jake felt a knot tightening in his stomach. The uneasiness from the letters crept back into his mind, filling him with a sense of urgency. "Let us move," he urged, glancing back at Mia and Chris. They started to retrace their steps, adrenaline kicking in as the shadows grew longer. The forest felt alive, pulsating with hidden stories and untold emotions. The letters were still clutched tightly in Jake's hand, a reminder that they had stumbled upon something beyond mere paper. This was a lifeline to the past. "Do you think," Mia began, hesitating, "do you think we're meant to find these?" Jake shot her a quick look. "Maybe, but we can't ignore the signs." It was almost as if the forest wanted us to see this, to hear these voices. His heart raced at the thought. Was there more beneath the surface? Were their stories meant to reach further than just the three of them? They moved faster now, reaching the edge of the tree line. Just as they broke free into the open, the sun dipped behind a cloud, casting a shadow across their path. For a moment Jake felt cold, as if the warmth of the sunlight had been snatched away. What if those letters are connected? He mused aloud, breathless. What if they lead us to more? Chris, now beside him, looked thoughtful. "You mean like a diary? Maybe more letters? We could find out who they belong to." Mia nodded eagerly, brushing her hair out of her eyes. "This gathering could be more than we imagined. We could share the love stories tied to our town, show people how resilient we've been against everything." But Jake kicked at the ground in frustration. Resilience is great, but what if those letters are just the tip of the iceberg? What if there's something darker? He remembered the tone of the final letter, the sense of finality that lingered like a cloud. Before they could continue the conversation, the wind whistled through the trees again, a sharp reminder of their surroundings. "We still have to get back," Chris insisted. He could almost feel the atmosphere shifting around them, heavy with anticipation as they climbed the worn path leading home. Jake's mind spun with possibilities. He glanced back at the woods one last time. "We have to come back. There's a lot we need to uncover." They agreed, but letting the idea settle was hard. The letters were just the beginning. What else remained buried in the depths of the woods? As the first hints of dusk painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, it promised magic. Yet, alongside that magic rested something unsettling. Jake was abruptly struck by imagination. What if they unearthed not only love but pain? What if they encountered ghosts of the past in their quest? "What do you think," he breathed, "is buried here?" They reached the old wooden fence that marked the edge of the forest. The sound of the town buzzed nearby, alive and vibrant. Thinking of the gathering, the potential for connection, Jake felt a spark of hope. "But who's going to listen?" Mia whispered, breaking his thoughts, her gaze skeptical. "What if they don't care about old love stories?" Fueled by the thrill of the mystery ahead, Jake replied, "They will care. We just need to show them." Still, a shadow of doubt lingered, and the wind carried a chill that hinted at challenges ahead, one that felt almost unnatural. Together they paused, standing by the old fence as twilight descended. Jake looked back into the darkness of the woods, heart pounding. "We have to know more. If those letters meant anything, we can't leave it here. We owe it to them." "Are we ready to dig deeper?" Chris asked, glancing warily back at the looming trees. The question hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty. If the past had indeed buried its truths deep in these woods, what would it mean to unearth them? With a quick nod from Mia and Chris, Jake felt the determination swell, igniting like a flame in his chest. The journey wasn't over. It had truly just begun. What stories awaited them in the dark embrace of the forest? Would they be prepared for the love, loss, and wisdom that would rise to the surface? The next day was clouded, a perfect backdrop for the unease that settled over Jake. As they gathered at Mia's house, the letters sprawled out on the table like fallen leaves, bringing to life the stories written by unknown hands. "I can't believe how real this all feels," Mia said, her fingers tracing the delicate ink as if it still held a heartbeat. "These people lived and loved just like us." Chris leaned closer, eyebrows raised. "But they wrote these letters in a different time. What if their experiences don't resonate today?" Jake tapped his fingers against the table, feeling the weight of the moment. "What if they do? Love, lost, the emotions are timeless. We just need to unlock that connection." Mia nodded, excitement sparking in her eyes. "We could create a display for the gathering. Show these letters, tell their stories. A buzz of enthusiasm filled the room. They could feel the wind of something new. Yet the countdown was on. The gathering was only days away. A part of Jake whispered that it was too rushed, too soon. But the other part refused to shatter the hope that blossomed in his chest. I'll take care of the display, Mia offered, already picturing how it'd look. She was always the dreamer, and right now her dreams were contagious. What about the darker parts? Chris interjected, grounding them. We can't ignore the vibes we felt in the forest. Those letters might lead to something deeper, something dangerous. Jake's heart raced at the memory. The last letter had held shadows, echoes of heartbreak that seeped through his mind. Maybe we'll uncover those stories too. We can't pick and choose what we showcase. Mia's expression sobered, her enthusiasm wavering. But what if it's too much for people to handle? What if they can't face it? Then it'll be our job to help them see, Jake said firmly. We're not just sharing tales of joy. We need to bring everything to light. With a shared sense of purpose, they each picked a letter to research, determined to peel back the layers of history. As they dove into the letters, stories unfolded like flowers blooming in spring. But there was an undercurrent that tugged at Jake's heart. The connections between the letters began to emerge, dark threads weaving together. Hours later they regrouped, the air thick with tension. I can't believe how interconnected they all are. Chris blurted, eyes wide. They talk about loss, the same pattern throughout. Each relationship had its heartbreak. Mia bit her lip. If this is true, what if revealing those stories does more harm than good? We could be opening old wounds. Jake looked at them, challenging them with his gaze. But isn't that the essence of history? We can't sweep everything under the rug because it's uncomfortable. The truth deserves to be heard. Their voices grew softer as the reality settled in. This gathering was no longer just a celebration of love stories. It was about truth. It was about connection. Even with a sense of clarity, doubt crept back into Jake's mind. They were poised on the edge of a mystery, but would they emerge victorious? Or would they be ensnared in something larger than they could understand? We need to go back to the forest, he finally said, determination stealing his voice. To know what we're dealing with. Chris sighed heavily. That place isn't just a backdrop. It's a part of this. It hasn't finished speaking yet. Mia straightened. Then we'll go, but we have to be cautious. Those letters hold more than we can imagine. Each heartbeat in rhythm, caught in a whirlwind of excitement and apprehension. As they prepared to delve deeper, Jake wondered if they would discover more about the ghosts that lingered from the past, some of whom might not want to be discovered at all. Would they truly be ready for the ghosts waiting under the boughs of the trees? Each step into that forest would mean facing the same fears that had shaped those long-forgotten stories. What would this journey teach them about love, loss, and the shadows that hid in their own hearts? The forest loomed ahead, dark and mysterious, its trees whispering secrets as a breeze swept through. Jake walked at the front, the crunch of twigs underfoot echoing his nervous anticipation. Mia and Chris flanked him, each step leading them deeper into a world that felt both familiar and alien. This place carries weight, Mia murmured, her eyes darting among the trees, as if expecting something to jump out at her. Her voice was low, reverent. It's like we're stepping back in time. Jake nodded, though unease settled heavily on his shoulders. The air felt thick, pressing against him, urging him to turn back. But he couldn't. Not now. He clutched the letter he had chosen to examine, a love note stained with age. Yet the words remained potent, alive. What are we even looking for? Chris asked, breaking the silence. What if we don't find anything? Or worse, what if we find too much? We look for the truth, Jake replied, trying to sound confident. The stories we read highlight a cycle of love and pain. We'll see where that leads. As they ventured deeper, the shadows around them stretched and swayed, casting eerie shapes. Memories stirred in Jake's mind, words from the letters, intimate confessions stitched with regret and longing. He caught himself thinking about his own relationship with Mia, how he sometimes felt like he was the ghost haunting his own feelings. What if the past they uncovered mingled with their present? Suddenly, Chris halted, his expression shifting from uncertainty to something more urgent. Do you feel that? He whispered. Jake stopped too, the hair on the back of his neck prickling. A chill swept through the air, wrapping around them. A faint sound like soft weeping drifted from somewhere deeper within the woods. It was haunting, ethereal. Could it be the echoes of love lost? Should we follow it? Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking louder would shatter the moment. No, Jake said sharply, feeling a pang of fear. Let us stay together and move cautiously. They pressed on, the sound growing sharper, carrying with it a tinge of desperation. Jake's heart raced. Each step felt heavier as they approached a clearing, the air seemingly thickening around them. Stepping into the open, they found a small stone structure, overgrown with vines and nestled amongst the trees. What is this place? Mia breathed. Jake stepped forward, a sense of familiarity washing over him. I don't know, but it feels important. He reached out to touch the stones, feeling the coolness through the warmth of his palm. Something about them sparked a memory he couldn't quite grasp. Chris joined him, examining the carvings on the stone. There are initials here and dates. He squinted. They look like the letters we read. This is where the stories met the real world. Mia knelt, brushing leaves away from a faded inscription. People came here to leave pieces of themselves, to heal or to remember. The wind picked up, rustling the trees, and for a fleeting moment, Jake thought he saw shadows shifting among the branches. Anxiety swelled inside him. What if we're not just uncovering stories? What if we're awakening something? Silence thickened between them, pressing them together. Mia's voice trembled as she said, maybe we shouldn't have come here. But Jake shook his head, determination fueling him. We have to face this. To truly understand what we're dealing with. There is a reason we found those letters. With those words, a sudden chill swept through the clearing, and the sounds of weeping intensified. The letters, the stories, they were leading them here. And now they had to decide. Would they turn back and leave the past buried? Or would they dive into the shadows, prepared to confront whatever awaited them in the heart of the forest? As Jake stood there, feeling the pulse of the land beneath his feet, he knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning of their journey into the unknown. Would they find healing or only more shadows waiting to grip their hearts? Jake felt a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside him as he exchanged glances with Mia and Chris. The clearing before them pulsed with energy. They had stepped into a forgotten part of their town's history, a sight that seemed to echo the love, pain, and heartbreak that so many had felt. Each heartbeat was a reminder that they couldn't just uncover the past. They needed to confront it. Mia knelt amongst the overgrown stones, her fingers tracing the initials carved long ago. These are real, she whispered reverently. People left their stories here. It's like we're standing in a piece of their lives. But as Jake looked around, reality crashed in on his excitement. Just like their lives had intertwined, he sensed a deeper truth lurking in the shadows. What if those stories hold more than just love? What if they contain sorrow? His voice barely broke through the thick air. Chris nodded slowly. We can't ignore the dark side of this history. We need to find balance in our gathering. Shine a light on both love and loss. They stood there weighed down by the responsibility of the ghosts they had awakened. But before they could dig deeper into their thoughts, the weeping intensified, intertwining with the gentle rustle of the trees. An overwhelming gust of wind whipped through the clearing, sending a shiver down Jake's spine. Did you hear that? Mia asked, her eyes wide, fear coloring her voice. Let us move back. We could be intruding, Jake suggested, but he felt a pull, an urge to explore further. They had come too far to turn back now. No, Chris replied, his eyes fierce with determination. We need to understand what's happening here. Together, they approached the stone structure with caution. The air felt electric, charged with emotion, and Jake's mind raced. Maybe this was where the love stories written in the letters had finally converged. Mia's fingers trembled as she picked up a stray stone, revealing another carved initial buried beneath layers of dirt. We have to ask the town to come here. Share this. This place is a testament to what people went through. As they discussed how to awaken the stories of those who had come before, shadows flickered all around them. It was as if the past was reaching out, begging to be acknowledged. Jake cringed as the weeping sound stopped suddenly. A thick silence fell, pressing down on them, making each breath harder to take. What if they're waiting for us to bring their stories into the present? Mia said softly, her voice a mix of hope and uncertainty. Then we have to be the ones to do it, Jake asserted, his heart pounding. We have to bring the town here, show them all that's buried. If facing the past means healing, then we can't shy away from it. Feeling emboldened, They carefully lifted the letters and explored the ruins surrounding them for signs of the past, each stone, each carving like another thread in the tapestry of their town's story. But as they worked, the sky dimmed, dark clouds gathering ominously, much like the weight of unspoken fears growing amongst them. The air thickened again as if the world felt it too, the suffocating sense that they were not alone. "I don't like this," Chris murmured, casting nervous glances around, and Jake instinctively placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let us finish, then we'll leave," Jake replied. "Whatever energy we've stirred up, we'll face it head-on. We owe it to them." With determination they dug deeper into the legacy of love and sorrow, growing resolute in their mission. The words echoed in Jake's heart. Love can be both a balm and a burden. It can heal and hurt simultaneously. Just then, with sound like thunder overhead, the wind howled anew, a wildness that felt almost alive. The ground trembled beneath them, and a voice rose like a ghost from the past, echoing the love they were desperate to share. "You are meant to hear our stories," it seemed to scream. Fear gripped Jake, but he stood firm, realizing that this was the moment they had been waiting for. The gathering was not just about sharing experiences. It was a chance to honor those whose stories had long gone unheard, to acknowledge their pain and celebrate the love that remained. "We will share the full story," Jake declared, his voice ringing out, singular against the rampaging wind. "We will merge joy with heartache and bring this town out of its silent fears." As the first drops of rain began to fall, he felt a wave of relief crash over him. It was time. They returned to town with a renewed sense of purpose. A fire ignited in Jake's heart as he imagined the gathering. It would be a place not just for stories of triumph but for tears, regrets, and redemption. The love letters became the centerpiece, a way to connect the past with the present, reminding everyone it doesn't matter how stormy it gets, love finds a way to shine through. And they were ready to share that truth, no matter how daunting. That night, as Jake looked up into the dark sky, he felt lighter. The burden of secrecy lifted, replaced with hope. Together they would step into a brighter future where love, in all its forms, would resonate in every heart. With each step in the gathering, they would reclaim their town's legacy. Now let's take this energy and share it with the world. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Let's get the love flowing.